police dog wouldn't stop barking at room 207 in the hospital, but behind that door lay a secret buried for 10 years. When his handler finally checked inside, what they discovered stunned the entire hospital and cracked open. A cold case that had been hidden for decades. This changes everything. The night shift at St. Andrew's Hospital was usually quiet, the long hallways hushed except for the occasional beeping monitor or whispered conversation between nurses. But just after midnight, a sound shattered the calm, a deep, urgent bark that echoed through the entire East Wing. Officer Dana Jenkins tightened her grip on Titan's leash, feeling the powerful German shepherd strain forward with every muscle in his body. His ears were pinned back, his hackles raised in a bristling line down his spine. She had worked with Titan for years, trained him to detect narcotics, explosives, even hidden weapons, but she had never seen him like this. "Easy, boy," she murmured, but Titan wouldn't ease up. He pulled her toward room 207, his claws scrabbling against the polished floor that a young nurse peered around the corner, her eyes wide. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Dana shook her head, though her pulse was already starting to race. "This room," she said slowly, "who's assigned to it tonight?" The nurse frowned. "No one. It's supposed to be empty. We keep it locked." But Titan disagreed. He barked again, louder this time. A sharp, commanding sound that sent shivers down Dana's spine. Within moments, a pair of doctors and 2 more nurses arrived, drawn by the commotion. Could he be mistaken? One of them asked. Dana didn't answer. She stared at the door to room 207, unease crawling up her neck. Titan had never sounded an alarm without a reason. Something, or someone, was inside that room that Titan's barking grew louder, each echo ricocheting off the sterile walls. Like a warning bell no one could ignore. His massive body lunged toward the door, claws scraping so hard against the linoleum that sparks of panic lit in the eyes of every nurse gathered there. "Titan, heel," Dana ordered, her voice sharp. But the K9 ignored her, something he had never done in all their years together. He pressed his nose to the crack beneath the door, sucking in air with frantic, desperate breaths. One of the doctors, a tall man with a clipped accent, stepped forward and held up both hands. "Officer, this is ridiculous. The room is locked and empty. He's probably reacting to a scent from the corridor." Dana shook her head firmly. "He doesn't make mistakes like this." A nurse tried to approach Titan, hand outstretched as if to calm him, but the dog's growl rumbled low and menacing, freezing her in place. The hairs on Dana's neck prickled. Titan's body language wasn't just alert, it was urgent, bordering on panic. Another doctor thumbed through the clipboard he'd brought from the nurse's station. "Room 207 has been unoccupied for 3 weeks. No scheduled patients, no equipment deliveries." Titan let out a high, keening whine and rammed his shoulder against the door. The sound echoed down the hall, drawing more onlookers. Dana met the nurse's frightened gaze. "We're running out of time," she said quietly, because Titan wasn't just alerting. He was trying to warn them. Why now? The hallway had filled with staff, security guards with radios crackling, wide-eyed nurses clutching charts to their chests. The overhead lights seemed too bright, shining down on Titan as he threw himself against the door again, claws scraping, breath coming in ragged huffs. Officer Dana's voice was tight with frustration. "I'm telling you, something's wrong." She glanced over her shoulder at the head of security, a grizzled man who looked skeptical but uneasy. "If you force entry and it's nothing," he began. "Then I'll answer for it," Dana snapped. "But if it isn't nothing, and we waste another minute, someone could die." Titan barked again, hoarse and urgent. His body slammed into the door with such force it rattled in the frame. A nurse covered her mouth to stifle a sob. "All right," the head of security said grimly. "Get the master key." One of the guards fumbled with a jangling ring of keys, his hands shaking. He inserted the largest brass key into the lock and twisted. The lock clicked, but when he tried the handle, the door refused to budge. "It stuck," he gasped, pushing with all his weight. "Something's blocking it." Titan whined, his nose pressed to the gap beneath the door. Dana could see him trembling, muscles taut as a bowstring. "Move aside," she ordered. She took a deep breath, braced her shoulder against the door, and shoved with everything she had. The hinges groaned in protest. With a final heave, the door swung inward an inch at a time. A sour, Metallic smell flooded the corridor, thick and choking. Nurses stumbled back, covering their faces. Dana's heart thundered. Titan surged forward, barking into the darkness beyond. The threshold, whatever was inside room 207. It wasn't empty. The door creaked open just enough for Titan to push his head through, nose working furiously. His growls turned to a low, mournful whimper that chilled Dana to the bone. She flipped on her flashlight and stepped inside, the beam cutting across the darkness like a blade. The air was suffocating, a mix of antiseptic, old sweat, and something metallic she recognized too well: blood. Dana's stomach clenched as she swept the light across the floor, stopping on a pair of bare feet sticking out from behind a tipped-over gurney. "Oh my God," a nurse whispered behind her. Dana moved quickly, dropping to one knee beside the motionless figure. It was a man, maybe in his 50s, his skin pale and clammy. Dried blood caked the side of his head. His chest barely lifted with shallow, ragged breaths. Titan circled to his other side, nosing the man's shoulder and whining. The big dog's tail thumped the floor once, as if begging Dana to hurry. "Call a trauma team, now," Dana barked. Over her shoulder, she pressed two fingers to the man's neck, relieved to find a weak, thready pulse that a doctor squeezed past the door and sucked in a sharp breath. "That's Mr. Halvorsen. He disappeared from County General last week. They thought he'd wandered off." "But how did he get here?" a nurse asked, voice trembling. Dana scanned the room, her flashlight catching something scrawled on the wall in dark, smeared letters. Her mouth went dry as she read it. "Help me. He's coming." The man stirred, his eyelids fluttering. He tried to speak, but only managed a strangled groan. Titan lowered his head beside him, staying close, as if to promise he wouldn't leave, and Dana realized with a shiver, whatever horror had begun here wasn't over yet. The hallway erupted into chaos as more staff crowded around the door. Paramedics elbowed their way inside with an emergency stretcher, their eyes wide as they took in the overturned gurney and the blood smeared across the tiles. Titan refused to move from the man's side, his head pressed protectively against the man's shoulder. "Easy, boy," Dana whispered, placing a reassuring hand on Titan's back. But he didn't lift his gaze from the wounded man. As if he knew every second counted. One of the paramedics knelt down and checked the man's vitals, voice tight. "He's in hypovolemic shock. We need to get him stabilized right now." "Hey." Nurse pressed gauze to the wound on the man's temple while the doctor inserted in 4. As they worked, Dana looked around the room again, her flashlight catching more unsettling details. Deep scratches gouged into the inside of the door. The phone ripped from the wall, and in the corner, a small pile of bloodied restraints. "Who did this to him?" she demanded, her voice shaking. The doctor shook his head. "We don't know. Someone must have brought him here, but there's no record." As the man was lifted onto the stretcher, his eyelids fluttered open. His gaze found Dana's face, then dropped to Titan. His lips parted, and a hoarse whisper emerged. "He never left." Dana leaned closer. Who never left?" But the man's eyes rolled back, and he slipped into unconsciousness. Titan let out a mournful howl that echoed all the way down the corridor. The paramedics rushed him out, for lines. Trailing behind, Dana felt her heart hammering in her chest as she followed, Titan glued to her side. Whatever was happening, this was only the beginning. Hours later, Dana stood outside the ICU, Titan pressed against her leg. A doctor finally emerged, exhaustion etched into his face. "He's stable," he said. "He'll recover." Relief washed over Dana, but the doctor's next words made her breath catch. "He was abducted. He said someone smuggled him in to finish what they started." Dana looked down at Titan, whose eyes were still locked on the ICU doors. "You saved his life," she whispered, scratching behind his ear. "If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more incredible tales of courage and survival."